there is no such group like you all in the United States. If I were trying to do the same thing, it would be very difficult to get 50 people together to study this kind of topic, right? And there's all kinds of reasons for why that's the case. And so I think, what I would say is, this is a, I'm sure you already know, this is a very special privilege to belong to a group where you can talk about these kinds of things openly, critically, but also being open that you might be wrong about what you thought in the past, and that's okay. And that, we all go through that as well. I think on the flip side too, I would say when you read scripture, I mean, the goal would be that every time you turn the page of scripture, you're thinking, how are the biblical authors trying to present to us various arguments about various topics that I'm very interested in? And what do they say? What are the kinds of things they say? What do they repeat over and over again? What topics do they come back to? Like even if it's 3, 5, 15 chapters later, it's like, oh, we're talking about this again. If I can give one example, when you leave the Garden of Eden in Genesis 3, some scholars will say, well, this story is not that important because it's never talked about again in Scripture. Like nobody in Scripture talks about the Garden of Eden, right? A few Psalms kind of allude to it. There's echoes of it or what. And I would say, actually, I think they talk about it all the time. They just talk about it by gathering up the garden story into these future stories. So when you have the woman who takes the fruit, she gives it to her husband who's with her. He eats, and then they know that they're naked. Their eyes are open. They know that they're naked, and they flee. Just a dozen chapters later, you have Sarai who is taking Hagar and giving her to her husband, and he listens to her voice. This is all language from Genesis 3. You have Rebekah who is taking these items and giving them to her son Jacob, and saying, listen to my voice, listen to my voice. The exact same verbs and the same construct that you saw in Genesis 3. And then you have Joseph, who will not listen to the voice of a woman who's coming to him day after day. Now, here's the key. Why won't he listen to Potiphar's wife, who is coming to him day? He's the very first man in the entire Bible who refuses to listen to the voice of a woman, and because she's got, desires that aren't right. But the justification that he gives is, your husband, Potiphar, has put everything under my control. Yeah, if you read it in the Hebrew, it's absurd. All things he's put under my control. There's not a single thing, all of which is under my control. He goes out and he does not worry because all things belong to me and I will take care of all things, all except for you, his wife, right? And so you think, wait, where have we heard everything except for this one thing? Where have we heard that idea before, right? We both have the language, the concept, and this idea. You have a man here who has everything except for one thing, and he makes the right choice by not listening to a woman who wants him to do something that he shouldn't be doing. That's just one simple echo. I mean, I could go on and on all the way into Judges and Joshua, reminding us of echoes. That's a way that they talk about this issue of responsibility and whose voice you should be listening to, and what it means to be the people of God. Because obviously, from that point, from Genesis 3 onward, Israel is going to be judged on whose voice she listens to and what she does in her practices according to who she listens to. And even the voice of Pharaoh, the second Pharaoh of Exodus, who is, let my people go. Who is this Yahweh? I do not know who this Yahweh is. I will not listen to his voice, right? You get this open rejection from the language of Genesis 3. So I would encourage you to read scripture looking for that repetition, both in concept and language. And again, if you don't know the Hebrew or the Greek, you can still do tricks to get around that problem. But a good translation should be pointing out to you, if not the language, at least the concepts are getting repeated over and over and over again.
Fantastic. This kind of perception of the coherence of the text is absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Professor.